All right, I actually think Halloween Ends was a really good movie, and I'm going to explain why. But before we do that, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the like button on this video. All right, before you bite my head off, I'm in agreement with most Halloween fans that Michael Myers definitely does not get enough screen time in Halloween Ends, to the point that it's actually really annoying because we went into this movie with a lot of expectations of seeing the big grand finale of this David Gordon Green timeline, and that's not exactly what we got. So I'm in agreement with that. But what if the entire time it was never supposed to be that? So a lot like Halloween 3, I think this movie years and years from now is going to have a cult-like following. I think we're going to get that Halloween 3 type of fan base. Like if you remember Halloween 3, everyone hated it when it first came out. It wasn't marketed right. Everyone thought they were going to get Michael Myers, which they didn't. We got an entirely different movie with new characters, and that was what John Carpenter originally wanted. So the fans hated this film, and it took decades before it started to become a fan favorite. It started to get this cult like following where now, if you go to any Halloween conventions or any type of horror convention where they have casts from Halloween 3, you will see some of the biggest lines in the convention for this film. And I think right now we're not there. Obviously, Halloween Ends just came out this past October. But I think in the future, maybe 10 years from now or more, it's going to have that cult like following because people are going to eventually realize what this movie was actually supposed to be. Now, with Halloween Ends, we kind of got the best of both worlds when it comes to the writing in terms of the comparisons to Halloween 3, right? We got an entirely brand new story, just like they did with H3. We got an entirely brand new story with a brand new character with Corey Cunningham and his entire story arc. But at the same time, we got a little bit of Michael Myers. And again, I know that's not something we wanted. We wanted more Myers. But there's a bigger picture here. And I think Danny McBride and David Gordon Green knew exactly what they were doing when they wrote it this way. I think they knew it was going to be very divisive in the way they wrote this film and the fan reaction they were going to get. And for some reason, I feel like they were probably banking on that entire idea. Now, if we look at the David Gordon Green timeline with the original 78, not including Ends, if we just look at 78, 2018, and Kills, we got plenty of Michael Myers throughout those three films, but you couldn't bring this entire timeline, this entire story to an end the same way you would any other movie. You couldn't just have Michael Myers stalking and killing and everyone trying to either get away or find him and then the epic ending battle. It was going to end up being just like any other movie. They had to find another way to help this timeline move on even beyond the David Gordon Green franchise. Because I think, in my opinion, it's going to move on. It won't be with David Gordon Green. He's already said he's concluded his timeline. But what happens after him, that's up to the next writer and director. So, what Halloween Ends aims to do is to show us that evil lives on beyond the monster, right? You can kill Michael Myers, you can kill the monster, but the evil is going to continue on in someone else. You can't eliminate the monster and think it all stops and the world goes back to a happy place. It's going to live on. If you kill Michael Myers and you kill Laurie Strode, there'll just be another Michael Myers and Laurie Strode in two other people. And that's what they're showing us with Corey Cunningham. So when Michael Myers is too weak from what happened in Halloween Kills after the beating he took, he was stabbed, he was shot, he was beaten. He's too weak. He moves on into this cave and he's not eating. He's not able to keep himself strong. So what happens when this horrible accident happens at the beginning of Halloween Ends with Corey when he's babysitting? The entire town comes to hate Corey. They come to hate him or they come to fear him, one or the other. So he knows what it's like to be hated and feared by everyone in the town of Haddonfield. So when he finally runs into Michael Myers, Myers understands this. He looks in his eyes and he sees what Corey's been through. He sees where Corey's mind state is, and he's able to transfer that evil, that power into Corey Cunningham. Now, while I know most people don't like the way that he transferred that power because David Gordon Green made it clear that Michael was supposed to just be human. He's not supposed to be supernatural, but somehow he managed to transfer that evil from himself into Corey and turn him into a killer. But realistically, how else could you have done that in this film? How else could you have shown that the evil will live on in someone else? So to me, this was probably the most logical way to pull that off, was to say maybe there's a little bit of supernatural here and Michael is able to transfer that power into Corey and have Corey go out and do the work for him to help Michael get a little bit stronger to come back. Now, when it comes to the character of Laurie Strode in Halloween Ends, her role to me is not that important in this film as much as it should be, right? It's the epic conclusion between Laurie and Michael, and we get that. We do get that epic conclusion. Her role is just so much smaller in this film because, again, the purpose of Halloween Ends is to show us that evil moves on in someone else. Whether you kill the monster or not, it's going to move on. So the first purpose for Laurie is to show us that she recognizes the evil in Corey. So if you remember 1978, she was able to pull Michael's mask off and look Michael directly in the eyes. So she's seen the evil face to face. Only Laurie and Loomis have done that, and Loomis is gone. So Laurie knows the evil when she sees it. So right after Michael transfers that evil and he goes to Laurie's house, and he's standing behind the bush the same way that Michael did with the hedge in 1978, she sees it right away. She goes downstairs, and when she comes face to face with Corey, she looks in his eyes and she can see it. So that's just to let us know that yes, the evil has transferred. That was her main purpose for the first part of this movie. Now, of course, the second purpose of Laurie Strode was to give us the ending we've been waiting for, and we got that. And it was a great fight. It was a great ending. I actually love the way they killed Michael Myers in this film. I thought there was no other real way to do it than to completely drain him of his blood and then completely destroy the body. That's the only way to really get rid of him, and I like the way they approached it. But outside of those two things, Laurie Strode is not the important character here, and neither is Michael Myers. The important character is evil. So when you think back to what Corey's mother said to Laurie when Laurie went over to her house, she says, "Your monster disappeared, so the town needed a new one." So again, showing us the evil is now with someone else. The town also needed another evil. The monster's gone. The town needed someone to hate and someone to fear because that's what they've been used to for over 40 years. They needed something else. And then also the evil needed someone else to live on in because it couldn't live in Michael anymore. Now, again, going back to Laurie Strode, I know that a lot of fans hated the idea that somehow we went from where Laurie was in fear and in revenge mode in Halloween Kills to somehow by the time we fast forward a few years later to Halloween Ends, she's moved on with her life and she's having this happy existence. She bought a home and she's living with Allison and she's cooking and she's just like this normal person. And everyone wants to know, well, how did that even happen? How is she able to move on knowing that they never captured Myers, that he killed all those people at the end of Halloween Kills and then disappeared? So she knows he's still out there. Again, I think the purpose of that was so that we forget about her throughout the movie. They want to keep our focus on the transfer of evil. They want to keep our focus on how the evil can take over another person in Corey and move on. They want to keep our focus on this new story arc between Corey and Allison. If Laurie is still in revenge mode, she's still in fear mode. You're always wondering what's up with her. But if you completely change her character into someone that just doesn't care anymore and has moved on, she's writing a book about it, and now she's in the background with Michael, and all of these other things that we're supposed to focus on are now in the forefront of this film. So that's why they did that to her. So now moving on to my last point is, did the character of Corey Cunningham ruin the entire franchise? And in my opinion, the answer is no. He did not ruin the franchise. It may be different. It was unexpected. They introduced him out of nowhere in this timeline where he wasn't present in any of the other movies. But I don't think he ruined the timeline. I think he gave it a whole different purpose. It actually gives it a reason to move on. Because even though we saw Michael snap Corey's neck, you got to think about all the stuff that Michael's been through when the evil was living within him, right? He's been shot, he's been stabbed, he's been beaten, he's been through so much, and he always comes back because the evil drives him, it keeps him going. So is it possible that Corey lived through that neck snap because the evil's now within him? So it gives us something to wonder about moving on into any future films. And then at the same time, we see Allison driving away, leaving Haddonfield. So if Corey comes back, will he go after her? Does he become the new Shape? And while I love the character of Michael Myers, I think we'll never stop seeing Michael Myers movies in the future. I think other people will do remakes and reboots. As long as this thing keeps making money, they're going to keep bringing Michael Myers back. However, I think if someone were to take the leap and maybe try to create this new Shape out of Corey, maybe it'll work. It might not be a bad idea, and maybe it won't work. But I think it's worth a try. The same way I've said with the TV series that's possibly coming to Peacock. I'd like to see Jamie Lloyd move on as the Shape and continue from part four and just retcon part five and anything after that. I'm open to the idea of seeing different universes within Halloween. I mean, we already have that with the multiple timelines. And I know the idea of creating more timelines kind of creates more of a mess, but at the same time, it's kind of like creating an entire Halloween cinematic universe. So, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did you enjoy Halloween Ends? Do you agree with my point about Corey? Do you still completely hate the film? I'd love to hear what you guys think about it.